welcome to Down the Slope. I'm Ewan, and once again we're back with a full house. Going to be quite a busy show this week. We've got 2 games to review, 1 game to preview, and plenty of other bits and bobs to be talking about. Greg, how you doing, mate?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad, mate. Liam?
All good, thank you, mate.
Harry, Hibs won yesterday. You feeling good?
Aye, mate. You know the rules. Hibs win. That's Harry back in the good books, so I'm not too bad, mate.
Good. Right, well, we'll start with obviously the disappointment on Thursday night. Obviously going out of the Conference League, but it was a frustrating watch. I think we would probably all be in agreement that until the red card, we probably all felt that Hibs were going to be the team that would go through. Harry, what did you make of the game? Or the tie as a whole?
I think on the tie as a whole, obviously, as soon as we went down to 10 men, I think they were definitely valued for at least 2 of the goals. They were very poorly defended, but they were completely in charge of the game as soon as we went down to 10. But the amount of chances we wasted in the first leg, I think we had enough chances scored in the first leg that we could have outscored them even if we went down to 10 when we did. But yeah, second half, I don't understand the blaming of Jack Ross for it, because in my opinion, as you said, I think we were very much in the ascendancy before McGregor gets sent off. I'm not going to throw McGregor under the bus and say that's the sole reason why he's passed it. I said at the start of the season, I don't think McGregor should be the third centre back, and I stick by that. I think the recruitment, whoever it is to blame that we've not got another centre back and is to blame for us not being through in Europe as far as I'm concerned. I think the performance in the first half was pretty poor, but as soon as we came out in the second half, I thought we were all over them, and it felt like it was inevitable that we were going to score. I think something that Liam touched on last week is we should have Porteous. If McGregor and Porteous are at the back together, we should have Porteous on the right side, because that's where we tend to play the ball down, and inevitably that's what ended up losing us the tie. I don't really have much more to say on as a summary than that. I just think the red card for me changed the game entirely, and that's the reason why we got beat.
Aye, Greg, what did you make of let's talk about the first 65 minutes before, and then we'll go post-red card after.
Well, it was a poor goal to lose, first of all. We should be doing so much more. We should be doing so much more. I mean, it's not just stopping the cross, it's also the boy's got a free run at the front post. It's poor stuff. I don't really want to go on too much about it because I could be here all night, but we then get ourselves back on terms, and then it's just a total capitulation for there. McGregor was on a tightrope as soon as he got booked. He then, I don't know why we don't just shell the ball there. Why are we pissing about with it at the back? Like, we know McGregor's notoriously not a defender that's going to pass the ball about or anything like that. So why not just shell up the pitch and then you take the danger away from it? But instead we've played ourselves into danger. He's not been able to do anything. He's then brought the boy down, and then for there, that's
the thing for me. I think I think there's been a clear emphasis and a clear shift from Hibs and Jack Ross so far this season that we are going to play the ball on the ground a lot more. I think that's clear for probably everyone to see, and I think maybe sometimes you've got one player shouldn't change the way you're playing, you know what I mean? And I think Macy probably gives that to McGregor just almost out of instinct, you know what I mean? Like, that's what they're used to, and you're right, McGregor should deal with that situation better. He should either, I think he's got the chance to give it back to Macy first time, which potentially a pass inside, but he dillies on it. The worst thing for me is he doesn't need to foul him. Just let him go. You know what I mean? He will be running in on goal, but he'll be coming in at a dodgy angle. Run with him. For me, it was he panicked, but it's a bit lazy. And I would say his tackle in the first half was lazy as well. Like, I don't think he was ready to either go with the boys. He was dribbling it. You know what I mean? It was like dangle the leg and just stop him. Like, instead, he just like go with the player. And that's what annoys. I think
that possibly comes from a player that's not played a lot of minutes so far this season. He's not up to speed. He's nowhere near it. He's miles off it, and he's made 2 errors because he's not up to speed. The worst thing for me is the way we defended after that. That is totally unacceptable at any level of the game. The fact that the free kicks come in, it's been put out for a corner, and the boys basically stuck it 5 yards off the ground and it's found its way in at the front post, past the man on the post, and a goalie who's absolutely flapping.
Yeah, Liam, what did you make of that second goal? I've watched it a few times and I'm still struggling to see how it got all the way through that it did. I think did Macy and McGuinness on the post and he had someone on him, and I think did Macy have someone on him as well. I don't really know what happened with it. And obviously there was only really the one camera angle.
Well, I was going to say our friends in Croatian TV have shown us that one angle which was entirely inconclusive. I think no matter how many times you watch it, I've still not got a fucking clue how that went in. So asking me to analyse it is a bit of a tough one, if I'm going to be honest, because I've no idea how it went in. Just on the McGregor incident, and I think it's important we do move on because, well, we've moved on, but
yeah.
I think just something I wanted to talk about, and I felt like I spent most of my Thursday night after the game defending Darren McGregor. Know that Darren McGregor needs defended by a wee pleb like me, but I just think there was something that just irked me a wee bit about a reaction to that, and I say a reaction as a fan base. I'm not digging out anyone in particular, but they'll know who they are. There's quite a few pathetic hypocrites who were calling for Darren McGregor to never play for Hibs again, saying that he's done. And these are the same pathetic hypocrites that said that Darren McGregor should have started in the cup final back in May. So I don't need to go into your search history on Twitter. I don't need to look into your WhatsApp conversations, but just have a fucking word. The guy, I'm not saying that he's beyond criticism, because he's not, because quite frankly, the game hinged on the mistake he made.
Yeah.
You'll know that better than anyone else. But I just think some of the reaction has just been absolutely pathetic. Like, guy's 36-year-old. Yes, he's probably his best years are behind him. To say that he's done when in May you're calling for him to start in the biggest game we've had in 5 years, do me a favour. But anyway, I just wanted to get that off my chest before we get started and get proper into it. But I do think, yeah, the second goal was a shite one to lose. Greg says just wasn't defended well enough. There was a period for me after McGregor went off as well where disorganisation was just, it was so plain to see. The guys did not know where they were meant to be. We did not reshuffle well. We eventually brought Gogic on, but it was all over the fucking shop for about 10 minutes.
Do you think, that's what I was going to say, do you think, obviously when that second goal goes in straight away, you're like, oh, fuck. You know what I mean? Like, that, it's almost like, with the penalty, they tried to take away double jeopardy by, like, if you get red carded and then the penalty. It's like, we got double jeopardy there. You got the red card and you're thinking, and McGregor's probably thinking, oh, well, he's not going to score. And then they got a corner that's probably not even a corner, and then it goes straight in for there. Do you think that then, so Jack Ross might, as soon as McGregor goes off, he's probably thinking about something. You know what I mean? He's thinking about what he's going to do. And then we go behind. That probably plants a seed of doubt as well, because he's thinking, fuck, we now need a goal as well. And I still think he made the right call bringing Gogic on and going to, we sort of went to 3-4-2, because I think it was the right thing to do, because at the point with McGuinness at right back, like, and I felt he still kept two up top. It would have been super easy to just, like, hook off Boyle or Nisbet, and you know what I mean. I think it was a good change. Was it Murphy took off? And we went with Doigan. Who would have been on the right hand side? Can't remember. Oh, McGuinness, I think. And then we had Doyle, Hayes, and Newell in the middle. Boyle and Nisbet sort of through the middle, and then McGinn and Fortress and Gogic at the back, which I was okay with. But obviously it does highlight, the whole game highlights something that we need, and we'll come to talk about that later on. Harry, the defending that came after the second goal, obviously Paul McGinn's own goal wasn't great, and then the final goal really adds sort of insult to injury. I think if we'd probably come away for that 3-1, I think seeing 4-1 just makes it look a lot worse on the face of it, and it just adds a little bit more shiteness to it as well, doesn't it?
I'm not gonna lie, you kind of answered the question, answered it in the question there, mate. You hit the nail on the head for me. As Greg said, I'm not quite as angry with the players as Greg is, but the defending obviously wasn't up to standard. It was pretty pathetic. I think the old mantra is when you go down to 10 men, you can't concede straight away, and you just need to keep yourself in the game. And the very worst thing happened. As soon as we conceded that goal, we were all as well turning the TV off, because we just absolutely collapsed. It was embarrassing. And just to say on my McGregor comment, I don't want it to seem like I'm slating him. I think McGregor in cameo appearances, I think that he plays well with the ball in front of him, but with the way that Rake are playing, just trying to get fast boys in behind and cutting off the wings, it's just not McGregor's game at all. Like, if we're playing against Aberdeen and they're lumping the ball forward, that's perfect, because McGregor's good in the air, but when boys are quick and running at him, it's just not his game. So I think that obviously the mistake's his fault, but it's not his fault he was in that situation, because I don't think Ross ever planned for him to be in it. But yeah, and I'm interested to see what Greg and Liam thought that Ross should have done. Maybe bring on Stevenson, because both of you shook your head when Greg Ewan said he'd done the right thing by bringing Gogic on. I probably would have brought Gogic and Stevenson on, to be honest. But yeah,
I'd be honest. I think he.
See at that point, what's the point? Like, what are you going to do in the game for there? You may as well just go for it. Why are you bringing on a holding midfielder to play him at centre half? That's not going to fix the situation. Why not
but
just?
You've got that argument of if you're chasing a goal, you don't just throw on 4 strikers. You know what I mean? You've still got to have. Yeah, you can chase a game, but you need to be able to get on the ball. And like, if it was anyone except Gogic, you would say putting a midfielder at centre half was a positive change. You know what I mean? Like, you're getting someone that should be comfortable on the ball, and like.
But he's not a ball playing midfielder though.
No, but what would you rather keep Kyle McGinnis at right back?
I think Stevenson's probably a good shout and just going to a back 3 and put Stevenson there. And you know what? Just pile bodies forward, because you've totally. I think they scored in the 68th minute and we brought Gogic on 71. Like, it doesn't really add up for me.
I think the lack of options on the bench. So not too dissimilar to Greg, but probably slightly dissimilar. Same but different. Same but different. The official same but different podcast. I think the fact that there was absolutely nothing that he could do really to make a difference just epitomises how weak that bench was on Thursday, and how threadbare the squad is. And I know when we come to talk about it and we talk about transfers, but for me, I looked at that bench and go, if I was playing Football Manager, I probably just fucking wouldn't bother, because what could I do with that bench realistically? Maybe bring Dan Mackay on, but is Dan Mackay really that different to anything else that's already on the park? And would I have the faith in him if a chance did come his way to put it away? Maybe not. So I honestly thought there was very little that he could have done with that bench. The centre back that was on the bench was a 16-year-old who's played a handful of games for the development side. Or the development side that don't exist anymore. So
I think Jack Ross did mention that in his post-match, didn't he? Or was it in the preview for the Killie game? He did reference Bryden. Well, let's just talk about the bench just now. Like I said, we will talk about what we need later in the podcast. But on the bench, we had Dre Wright, Stevenson, Campbell, Sampson, Mackay, Gogic, Dabrowski, Gullen, and Bryden. And obviously, it doesn't fill you with confidence. But you would also say that in all the games prior to that, we've had a very strong bench. And you would look at the bench against, say, Motherwell on opening day of the season when you're Doidge, Allen, Mackay. You know what I mean? A lot of, like, Dre Wright wasn't stripped. Bradley's not being stripped. Like, any team's going to miss 4 players of the quality of Doidge, Hanlon, Cadden, and who was the other one? Hanlon, Doidge, Cadden, and Scott Allen. You know what I mean? Like, you would miss and what makes it even worse for me is you've missed. For me, Christian Doidge would have started on Thursday night, and Hanlon would have started. And we know they're the 2 areas that, in terms of, I wouldn't say we're weakest in quality, but we're weakest in numbers. So that just puts a fucking bright light on it.
9 subs in Europe as well versus 7 subs in the league. So you see it more as well. There's more dross on the bench essentially.
Yeah.
It's really not ideal when you've got 2 goalies on the bench. Like,
no, you need to have 2. Like, you need to have 2 goalies on the bench in Europe.
You have to have 2 goalies on the bench.
Yeah, and
we've not even got 2 goalies. We've got a goalie and a goalie coach. What's your thoughts on that? I'm genuinely absolutely fine, because we do have, is it Murray Johnson that's there and trains with the first team. Like, I wouldn't want to sign another goalkeeper. I think it's a wage we don't need to sign.
It's a waste of a wage.
I didn't realise you have to have 2 goalies on the bench. Whoever made that rule up needs a check. That is ludicrous.
He doesn't listen to the podcast when he's not on it, because we fucking spoke about it the other week.
I skipped through it, mate.
All about his own ego, that Greg.
He only listens when he can listen to his own voice.
He just follows us and we're speaking, eh?
Skip when yous are talking. Skip to the sense. That's what I do.
No, but yeah, Greg, is there anyone that didn't come on? Maybe Daniel Mackay, even Jamie Gullen, Dre Wright, or you mentioned Stevenson. Would you have brought them on potentially to just even freshen up a bit? Because hot temperature, you do have 10 men. Like legs is important.
No.
Nope. Perfect. I did reference you, Greg. I said your name.
Oh, I thought you said Liam. Oh, me. To be honest, I think obviously we spoke about it after the 8th game that the subs we made in that game looked like we actually did have good depth, but at this level, the players aren't going to cut it. I mean, Dre Wright is not going to cut it against Rijeka. It's unfortunate Scott Allen's not there. I think that's possibly due to the health issue. Yeah, I mean, his hands are pretty much tied at the moment with a lack of options. And to be honest, I wouldn't want us to rush players back because we've seen what happens when we do that. You know, you end up with them out for longer. I mean, Cadden's a massive miss. So at the moment, it's not Jack Ross's fault. Harry's spot on. It's whoever's not recruited a centre half who's got us out the Conference League. And do you know what? It's only the last 4 transfer windows we've needed a centre half, so there is really no rush here.
I don't think we've. I think that's. I couldn't disagree with that point more.
Okay.
But the last 4, we've needed a centre half for the last 4 windows.
Ever since Jackson left, we've needed a centre back. That is a fact.
Would agree.
An absolute fact.
Would agree. Because who have we actually had? So
we got very lucky. We got no centre back
season.
injuries, and when we did, we got pumped twice by bloody Livingston and Ross County last year. We needed a centre back. Fact.
We didn't have injuries then. We played the first choice back 3.
But were they playing? Well, I'll try to give them excuses, mate. If you think that having 2,
Harry. Don't worry.
See McGregor. As I said, he can make 10 appearances a season. If he makes that, I'm happy. If he makes any more than that, and he's expected to make more than that, that's an embarrassment. Given his age.
I think his transfer windows is a bit fucking extreme.
No, mate. Ever since Jackson left the club, we should have had a centre back, and that should have been priority number 1. I'm not taking anything else apart from that. If you disagree with that, then you're a bit stupid, in my opinion. That is a simple fact, mate. That is a fact.
I don't think 4. I think saying 4 transfer windows is taking it to the extreme.
3.5 then, because Jackson left it like halfway through the summer transfer window.
I wanted that going into last season.
At the very minimum, it's 3 because
I would say it's January. I'd say January and this summer. I was all right with last season's squad at the back. I genuinely was. And I would say that last season's defensive unit and performance showed that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to say... Obviously, you can say you're lucky or you're unlucky, but...
I think it's a bit... There's a few things that have happened that have kind of left us short, and, you know, you've touched on it already, but Cadden being injured at the same time, because I think we would have shunted McGinn across to play centre back, you know, in any other circumstance, to be honest. But Cadden
we don't play 3-5-2 anymore.
No, but if Cadden's fit, you can. So I'm saying you can put McGinn to right centre half. If Cadden's fit, you can. It's a bit of a perfect storm when you're missing your first choice / backup right back, right wing back, your first choice, your captain and first choice centre half. Probably your best number 10 in terms of creative option. I'd say McGuinness is playing outstanding in that position, but Allen's your most creative option off the bench, and you're missing the main striker that'll come on and change the game. Like, let's just calm down a wee bit. We've got a good squad. It was just a bit of a fucking
can I just say,
we're lacking options. Like, fucking hell.
If you're basing your squad off the first team only, that is stupid. You need to have depth. You can't just be like, when we're injured, we've got injuries. You need to have someone in there for when we get injured.
You're missing 4 first team players.
And they need to play.
I think we'll miss the bigger picture here, guys. I think we'll miss the bigger picture here, guys. And I think the bigger picture is if we just had the foresight to sign someone that can play a multiple different defensive positions, someone like, say, Alan Maybury, that could play right back, left back, and centre back, all as equally as adeptly as Alan Maybury, the club would maybe be in this position.
Right, that's it.
Bring him back.
I don't think we can turn around and say we don't have options when 2 weeks ago we were talking about how many good wingers we've got.
But wingers aren't playing at centre back.
But then on the same argument, you're saying on. I know you're saying McGregor shouldn't have started, but I wasn't going into the game all that worried about McGregor. Obviously, hindsight's a great thing. But Harry, I would be fair to you and say you were fine with it, Gogic coming on. But Greg, you're saying that there was no point in bringing a centre back on Thursday night when McGregor got sent off anyway. So ultimately, but what doesn't? Oh, so if we had one, then we would have brought him on. Then what difference does it make him playing Gogic there? You know what I mean? You're saying we're chasing the game, so we need to go forward.
Substitution was right anyway, but he's brought a holding midfielder to play at centre half. I don't think that's the right substitution at all.
I don't think the fact we had 3 centre halves. See, this is where, and I criticised McGregor on Thursday night. I don't by any means, by a long stretch away, think Darren McGregor's done. I just thought it was poor on Thursday night.
You know what I mean? Honest, you probably don't even need to bring a defender on. Just even if you put Doig at centre half in a 3 or whatever, I really don't care. But all you're doing is you're then putting a holding midfielder on when really at that point we have to chase the game.
I do get that, but I still think there's got to be an element of, because if we did chase the game, right, at the point when he brought him on, we did only need 1 goal. You know what I mean? We didn't need. See if it had made that change when we needed 2 or even 3, then you'd be like, what the fuck? But and he's probably looked at his, like we've said, looked at his bench. There's not much experience there. You know what I mean? And you do want to shoot it up a bit as well. I think as much as because I know we ultimately went on to concede 2 more, but at that point you knew we can't, as much as we need a goal, we can't concede again.
I don't know, but if you've got the 3 defenders and then Jake Doyle, Hayes and Newell, sure that's shored up enough, and then players can get further advanced than that.
I just think Josh Doig was going to be our best option out wide left. He's the only player with.
If I'm honest,
I'd have brought Gogic and others on.
I thought Murphy was our best. Was our outball in the first half. I thought he'd done very well. He got shots off. He tested the goalie. We didn't really test the goalie. The goalie looked suspect at best. We didn't really test him.
I agree. Anyway, it was frustrating.
He's only agreeing because he can't be asked to argue with me.
No, I think Murphy needed to go off as well, because I think we've seen Murphy's after the other mark. That seems to be, if you could bet on subs, just bet on Jamie Murphy to get hooked between 60 and 70 minutes every time he starts a game. But look, right, anyway, we'll come to talk about the squad in even more depth later on. Moving on to the Killie game, 3 of us were there. Greg, you weren't there. What did we make of the first half yesterday, Harry? It looked like there was a bit of a European hangover potentially.
It was just a bit bland, nothing really happened. They debatably scored. I couldn't tell from my angle if it was over. It probably wasn't.
From where I was sitting in the east, it certainly no Lee Griffiths over the line, but like close.
Like it might have been.
Did you see Bruno Fernandes's goal at the weekend for his hat-trick goal? That probably a live play. It didn't look over the line, but it was. It was more one of them than a Lee Griffiths against Hearts.
I thought a few players. I think across the board they were pretty poor. I think that the chance they got with Robinson through on goal, Porteous. It's a thing with him, just so erratic sometimes when he's defending. That really frustrates me. But I don't think we've been giving Macy enough credit, because I think at least once a game he makes a very good save. I know the ball's essentially right at him, but he makes himself very big, and I think that's a good save.
It's a great save as far as I'm concerned.
I think that Murphy had another very good half of football. There was one move in particular when he kept the ball in on the wing, nutmegged the boy, and then put it across, and Boyle just about got there. Kilmarnock were up for the game, and it didn't look like we were in the first half. And that's about the sum of it for me. Kilmarnock didn't really impress me, but Hibs definitely didn't impress me first half. Yeah.
Greg, obviously you weren't. You didn't obviously couldn't watch the game because it wasn't on tele. When you seen the team, did it surprise you that we didn't make any changes? I think we spoke about last week saying we had a feeling we'd go strong if we did go out of Europe, but even still, did you think there'd be some?
I thought, yeah. I mean, I was expecting Hamill to come back in, to be honest. But obviously, he's still not there. So, you know what? I'm in enough group chats to know what went on in the first half. Thank the Lord I wasn't there. But you know what? I was a bit surprised there wasn't more changes, but we spoke about the depth and really who are we going to change.
I would have still made some changes from the start personally, but I would also say that I've seen some people being like you maybe said, Jack Ross doesn't trust the squad or we have no depth, but to the same extent, Jack Ross gets berated for not winning cups, so he probably should go with strongest 11. Like that would be would I guess be the retort to that. But I would maybe like to have just seen like Dan Mackay start, maybe just because I think they're the games where someone like him could potentially find some confidence on the assumption he plays well. And I mean, one for me again, like Jamie Gullen just needs to leave. Like he never got any minutes again yesterday, which really did surprise me with 5 subs available to us in the League Cup. Which, can someone explain this to me, right? The League Cup is an SPFL competition, right? It's the same as the league, and the Scottish Cup is the Scottish FA. Am I right? So I'm baffled at the fact that SPFL league competitions are 3 subs, but the League Cup's 5. Does anyone know the logic behind that, or have the SPFL said anything about it?
I presume because the League Cup's effectively treated like a pre-season tournament by some clubs in summer, that they just used to have 5 subs for that reason. There's no point in changing it once it gets to the knockout stages. Probably not allowed to change the rules of the competition halfway through. So
maybe that's why. What did you make of Paul McGinn yesterday, Liam? Oh no, on you go, Greg.
Am I right in saying that? What was it? Was it a Dundee player that's on loan at Peterhead got injured for Dundee against Peterhead? Did I read that right?
Aye.
When was that?
What an absolute joke competition this is, isn't it?
What was that in the group stages or something?
I don't know, mate, but the boy's on loan at Peterhead and he played for Dundee under 20s against Peterhead and got injured.
Oh, and that wasn't that wasn't in the League Cup. That's in like the
trust
the
the
one that was the Petrofac when the Colts team going at fucking hell.
What an absolute disgrace,
Liam, what did you make of Paul McGinn yesterday? Obviously, he got really strongly criticised after the Rijeka game on Thursday. I thought he was pretty good.
He was good. I thought he had a really good game, particularly like most of the team. Second half, the use of the ball was better. He did have. Harry kind of mentioned Porteous. If we're going to give it a bit of balance, McGinn gave him an absolute horror pass just after that accident, and Porteous did this incredible pirouette on the halfway line where he just skipped away. I think it was for Robinson, and like you're going to dish it out, like that was just absolutely top drawer because he bailed his teammate out of a mistake there. But I thought McGinn was good. I thought just on the Scott Robinson chance, it's a mistake from Porteous, no doubt about it. But Matt Macey, he redeems himself because he saves it. But by God, does he got to come? He had all the time in the world to come and clear that, and he just watched it. After the ball goes over Porteous, he's got to get there. I'm sorry, but there's he's barely even come. He's somewhere between the 6-yard box and 12-yard box, and he stops it. He's got to come for that. It was absolutely, honestly, it was bad, really bad. It felt like it was an age.
I would offset that though, but if he's made the decision that he thinks he's got a better chance of stopping the ball going in the net by giving himself enough time to properly set himself, then and he's done his job effectively. You know, like maybe he just didn't feel that he would get there first, or if he did get there, I don't.
The way the ball was hit, I think it was understandable for Porteous to leave it because it was absolutely. Ball forward.
I totally disagree. Porteous went to heed that and just, I think he's just totally.
I think he's caught in 2 minds. No, I agree. I think he's caught in 2 minds, but I think it would be understandable for him to have left it. But
it was an interesting one at the start of the game. Obviously, Harry, you mentioned it before, and Liam, you mentioned it last week. I can't remember if it was on the podcast in the group chat. Porteous was back to right centre half yesterday. Do you think that does make how much of a difference do you think that makes? Just obviously neither of them are entirely comfortable on the left without Hanlon, but it's just, I guess, causing as little disruption as possible.
I think most of the action goes on our right side, so teams tend to overload the left side of the field to counteract Boyle, so it just means less pressure because McGregor had so much time when he was on the ball against Kilmarnock, whereas against Rijeka he didn't have any.
Mm-hmm. Do you think the first half performance yesterday has potentially been a little bit blown out of proportion? Like It was. I don't think we weren't bad, but I wouldn't say we were good. I just think a little bit of sharpness was missing, Liam. But did you think Killie were the better team, or was it just?
Nah, it was an even first half. We were poor, but it wasn't even first half. There was a few moments. I mean, Jamie Murphy, I think we need to give him credit. I thought he was brilliant for 45 minutes yesterday. I thought he was on it every time he got the ball down the left-hand side.
Yeah.
And the number of times they doubled up on him and he just went straight between the two of them yesterday. It was so good to watch. He had one really early on where he was down our kind of corner of the east stand and sort of, near the way end. And I don't think they doubled up on him at that point. I think he was just one-on-one against whoever Killie's right back was. And he just... and he can. The thing is with Murphy, he has that. We've talked about before. He's got the ability to go inside and outside, and he can beat you either way. But he went outside, got to the byline, and flashed this ball across the box. That see if someone had gambled, it's 1-0. And he had a few moments like that in the first half where he just had the beating of his man every single time, and he was receiving the ball. He was receiving the ball in with 15 yards of space. He was receiving the ball with no space at all, and he was still doing the same thing every time. So I thought, for the time he was on the park yesterday, actually, not just the first 45 minutes, I thought he was really, really good.
Yeah, I would agree. I feel like Murphy's definitely. I think we commented on it enough last season. Like last season, definitely felt it was cut inside. I think already this season he's brought more variety to his game. I think he still goes, even if it goes byline, he still works it back on his right foot eventually. But I think in that initial one-on-one, Murphy has really, really impressed me so far this season. Harry, obviously the goals come in the second in the second half. The first one's totally just escaped my Kevin McGuinness to Kyle McGuinness. Paul McGinn plays a really good ball down the outside, and Kevin Nisbet. I am sitting there and I have just fucking screamed pass because it felt like he was going to shoot and miss. Like it was starting to feel like one of their days a wee bit. It was good to see a little bit of composure though and laying it into McGuinness.
I think the main thing that stuck out to me is the fact that I thought the header he had literally 2 minutes before it was an absolute sitter. I don't think you get easier chances in that as a striker. Like perfect height, that was a brilliant cross in from Doig. And like as you say, the composure to then actually cut the ball back and give McGuinness the tap in, because most strikers would be so frustrated and they just lash the ball at goal and hope for the best. But yeah, no, obviously best option available, and he done it well. And the thing is as well, he held it for so long that the keeper had to commit to him, and it just made the goal. It was impossible for McGuinness to miss. It was very well. It was great striker play. I don't think he can do much better than that, to be honest.
It's lovely to see a sweaty goal like that, isn't it?
I know it's one of the only like proper FIFA goals you'll see. Proper sweaty.
Liam, the second goal, I don't know what you remember. I felt like Hibs were sort of strolling it about at that point. There was a passage of play sort of right in front of me in the east stand towards that half where we were really, really tight right in the byline, but we worked it out well. We kept the ball for ages. Obviously, Boyle got across in initially, got cleared. It ends up at the passage O'Neill. What's the best part about that goal? Kevin Nisbet's movement, Joe Neal's pass, or Kevin Nisbet's header?
I think it's the finish for me, because how often do you see back headers go into the net like that? It was just the movement's class. The ball for Joe Neal's a really good ball, just to see that pass. But I think for me it's always the finish, because that's the hardest bit to do. Is the cliche goes, hardest bit, putting the ball in the net. I thought it was such a good it was just such a good finish, and it was probably no less than we deserved at that stage, because I think, being honest, like we were passing it around, especially when we were 1-0 up, we were passing it around them and they were really struggling to deal with us. And Boyle came into the game a bit more second half as well, and he was kind of picking up bits of space. I know mentioned his cross got kind of knocked back out, but the whole team just found another gear, and I thought that the goal was pretty good. Enjoyed it.
There was two incidents. One incident and one other thing that I wanted to talk about that actually both happened between the first and second goals. Greg, I don't know if you've seen this yet. Bobby Madden's abrupt blowing of the whistle as Kyle McGuinness is running through and goal for the hamstring tear. I'm kind of hoping you've not seen it, because we could be here a while if you have.
I've not seen it, but yeah, I've heard it was pretty bad. And nothing surprising me with Baldy Madden. Just another standard day for him at the office. So centre half pulls up and Kyle McGuinness is 1-on-1, and the ref blows his whistle. Just as well I wasn't there yesterday. Put it that way.
I think right. Let's I'll go first then, Harry, then Liam. Let's all give our take on this instant, right? Okay, blows his whistle to hold up for it. The bit that annoyed me the most, maybe not the most, but compounded it for me, Kyle McGuinness has possession of the ball when he blows his whistle. The rule is that if the ref stops play, it's an uncontested drop ball to the team that have possession. We should have got the ball back inside the Killie box. Whether he blows the whistle, you know what I mean? You can argue whether he should or shouldn't have. I think we probably all agree definitely shouldn't have. But I don't understand how the ball then ends up at the Killie goalkeeper's feet at the drop ball. That's the bit that fucked me off the most.
Tommy Wright had to tell him to give it back as well. They weren't going to give us the ball back. Tommy Wright was gesticulating on the side saying give him it back, give him it back. Until that point, they were not going to give us the ball back. It was an absolutely atrocious decision, And we've had a go at referees on this podcast quite a bit already this season. It feels like because they were getting so much wrong. But that's probably the worst decision. Maybe other than the Newell sending off, that's maybe the worst decision so far we've seen this season. It was so bad, and apparently, to rub salt in the wounds, apparently he was laughing at folk when they were gesticulating about at the bottom of the stand.
He was having a little bit what he would just pass off as banter.
See, we were on Bobby Madden bad decisions. The Scott Robinson lunging on 2 feet in the bottom corner of the game. It didn't even book him. He was off his feet.
Robinson was laughing a bit
in the air, and Robinson's laughing, and Bob Madden's even book him. It was. I mean, it was definitely a yellow card. I've not seen it back to see whether it was a red card, but definitely a yellow. So bad.
McKenzie should have been booked early doors in the first half for slice and boil down as well. And then 15 minutes later, they done the same thing and eventually got the book in late. But then Bobby Madden just doesn't book people because he didn't book his fucking open goal pal Andy Halliday either did they open day of the season. So as well as Harry,
no, the main problem I had, obviously the decision speaks for itself. It's just, as Liam said, atrocious. But I think the problem with that is it gives a bit of momentum to the other team, because I thought that they had maybe like a 5-minute spell. Like, it wasn't anything substantial, but they got the ball, and every single time we touched them in our half, even if it was just like shoulder barging, Madden was giving them free kicks. It was like he was gagging for a Kilmarnock goal. But yeah, no, that was the only period in the second half. Like, that was a very Hibs moment. I was like, we're going to lose this game, and it's because they stopped the ball when we had the ball in the box. Like, my mindset went full Hibs. But yeah, no, as Liam said, apart from the Newell decision, it was the worst one of the season. And the thing is, I try my best not to talk about refs too much on the podcast because I think it's a bit of a cheap claim. But the rule, as far as I'm concerned, and if someone put it on Twitter as well, if it's a head knock, you stop the game. If the guy's broke his leg, fuck him until the ball goes out of play. If we'd scored, then maybe the Kilmarnock fans would have said, "Oh, Hibs are scum playing on when a guy's done injured." But it's our choice. It's not the ref's choice.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm on the Hibs.
Do you know? Just funny you mentioned that Kilmarnock got a little bit of momentum on the back of that. I definitely agree with that, and I felt like that stuck until Scott Allen came on. And now this is probably going to sound like the biggest contradiction in the world. I felt like Scott Allen coming on gave us all the momentum again, but I didn't actually think him himself was that good. Like, I thought he was fine, but see, when I seen him warming up, I thought Doyle Hayes or Newell were going to go off because I didn't think either of them had done that great in the second half. Well, they both had all right first halves, and I thought they were both really good after that. But I said to the guy I was with, I said that I thought we both said it'll either be one of the two, and McGuinness would drop back deeper, but obviously took off Murphy. What did you make of Scott Allen's performance when he came on?
I thought he was pretty poor. I think it's more down to a lack of match sharpness than him actually being bad. But from my perspective at the moment, I'd much rather see McGuinness as the advanced player than Allen. I think that McGuinness just brings so much to the team at the moment, and I think that fitting Allen into the team and pushing McGuinness back doesn't make sense. If there's a way to keep them both advanced on the pitch, obviously it'd be good. But with the way Scott Allen's played in the last couple of cameos, the pass to Danny Mackay obviously very good, but apart from that, I thought he looked a bit lacklustre against Rijeka as well. I think the main problem is he needs minutes, but he can't get them if he's going to perform at that level, in my opinion.
Based on how he's played, I think, and the cameos had off the bench, I'd say he's behind Josh Campbell in the pecking order at the moment. I don't think that's an outrageous call to make, but I think based on the minutes that they played on the park so far this season and nothing else alone, just taking sentimentality out of it, as I keep getting told to do, then I think Josh Campbell has performed better than Scott Allen. That's the cold hard fact. I think Scott Allen yesterday, the ball bounced off him a couple of times, very un-Scott Allen-like. The passing was wayward. So, I wish him all the best and hope he can get back to something like his best form. And maybe Harry's right, maybe he needs minutes to do that. But maybe there comes a time this season, dread to say it, but maybe there comes a time this season where actually he's kind of surplus to requirements, because he's on quite a substantial wage, and I don't think we can be carrying any passengers on substantial wages. So his performances need to improve, I think.
Right. So I think in general, for us and Greg, all happy that we got through. I think we probably all expected the game to go the way it sort of did. I think we'd said before it would be a competitive game if we had made more changes or whatever. But look, we got through. But Greg, I think there's a topic of conversation here that we all want to talk about. You didn't go to the game mainly because you just felt like 20 quid, 22 quid was just too. It was out of reach considering we'd paid for European games, pre-season games, etc. What's your thoughts on the whole sort of, we're all season ticket holders, would you say lack of benefits as a season? Is that the best way to pitch it? When you see other clubs like St Mirren and Livingston agreed to charge, was it £10 and £5 yesterday? Motherwell fans have obviously, if they had a season ticket last year, have not had to pay for this year. What's your thoughts on that right now with the sort of season ticket?
I probably cut a bit of a frustrated figure with it, to be honest. Hibs want the fans to back them. The fans are backing them, but the fans are getting nothing in return. I think that we knew obviously last season it wasn't going to be ideal. We probably wouldn't have got back in the stadiums. This season's totally different, and you're getting absolutely nothing really for your money. I mean, obviously you're getting the season ticket. That's all very well, but Hibs have promised benefits and all and you're not getting anything like that. It just makes you feel like, well, what are you really? You just season ticket money, or the club actually appreciate you? We have had to pay for European tickets. You then have to pay for cup tickets, and it's a lot of expense in the first month of the season, and this is before you even think about away days or whatever. I'm not sure how you feel, but I think the club should be doing more to entice the fans to promote benefits, because 10,500 season tickets isn't great as far as I'm concerned.
No, it's not. What did we have the season before COVID? Was it 13?
Yeah.
Am I right in saying? Harry, where do you land on that? We've seen. I think we can sort of ignore what they promoted last season, because I think the club probably had the best intentions, but ultimately their hands remained tied for probably longer than they had hoped and expected. But this season, I think there was chats about stuff like training ground access, even stuff like you get a free Hibs TV membership. They gave you that last year and this year, but have we really seen anything on Hibs TV that you wouldn't see on the YouTube page? What's your thoughts on it all?
I don't think it's very hard to do good PR at a football club. I think very simple gestures, like every time that someone's birthday, a person affiliated with the club sends them a birthday message, like literally small things like that, the fans would quickly shut up. Like the thing is, with St Mirren, Livingston and Motherwell are proving themselves to be community clubs, which is what every club should strive to be. I don't personally. I'm in a position where financially I can afford to go to all the games, and I'd probably pay stupid money at the moment as well to go and see them play. But a few years ago we had a cup top up, and it was incredibly fair. You didn't have to pay any extra if you got your season ticket. You got home games for free. If you got lucky, then you'd maybe get 3 or 4 games, and then if you were unlucky, then all the ties would be away from home, or we'd get papped at the cup early. I think that in terms of some things, and then the loyalty point system, I know that some people got a bit peeved when they started including HSL points in it, but I don't understand why they took that away from the club as well. I think that we've got a very new team in terms of our media, so hopefully we start seeing different strides. But you you're part of the community. Hibs are the heart and soul of Edinburgh, as far as I'm concerned, and we're getting season tickets outsold by a team that's just got promoted and they're a bit pish. There's no reason why we shouldn't have 3,000 or 4,000 more season tickets sold than Hearts. And for me, like, I just don't understand how we didn't sell out our allocation for Reka. I know that COVID's a massive scare for some people, but for me, I just like, I might just be who I am, but as soon as we were able to go back to games, I couldn't help myself. I said to myself, I'm not going to go to Wraith away or Arsenal at home in the friendlies. I'm going to wait for an actual big game, but I couldn't help it. But yeah, just, that was a mini rant. It wasn't really direction, but there you go.
No, I agree. And like, I think what you have both mentioned there with the tickets situation, like, I've not missed a game yet, and I understand that's my decision, and the club have to obviously host these games. You know what I mean? Like, there is cost related to it, but how many? So was it 2 European games, Wraith away, and Arsenal? Is that the non-season ticket games that have been so far?
Aye, correct.
Is that right? And they were all circa 20 to 25 quid. So I must have spent over £100 already this season on top of my season ticket just to go to Hibs games, and only one of them's been away from home. Is that right?
Yeah.
Aye. And like, and I do it because I love the club and I want to do it. And quite frankly, if I had been in my house on Sunday when Hibs were playing, I'd have been pacing. You know what I mean? Like, I would, like, it wouldn't feel right not to be there. But it's no great, is it? It just feels like there's a little something missing. And I think touching on the media side of things, there's a really good job. I think is it Ben and Adam, the guys I think that seem to be running the media. They've 100%. It's improved it so much, tenfold since what we've seen last season, and definitely to the end of last season. But it just feels like things were promised that maybe haven't yet been delivered on. Liam, what's your thoughts?
I think as well, it's so easy for like Ben to come in and say, he wants to have that engagement with the fans, but you've actually got to go and do it.
I think you've got
to get the club out there. You've got to get the club engaging with the fans. You know, you can't just, you know, in the moment all they've done is taken 400 quid off folk, and you've had nothing in return. When actually you've supported the club all last season. You've bought games away from or whatever. Like, you've done so much for the club, and really we've had absolutely nothing in return. And that's what kind of sticks in my throat, is that, like you say, we've been outsold season tickets by Hearts. Like, why is that? Is that because the fans don't want to go? Is it because the fans don't think they're going to get anything for their money? That there needs to be somebody from the club needs to be looking at this and saying, look, well, this is the situation. What can we do to improve it?
Yeah, it's not a criticism of other fans that feel they can't justify it or just plain and simply don't want to go. But the club should be looking at it and going, well, why aren't these guys coming back? And what can we do to sort of incentivise that? And I think it's a good point to say that they have sourced a sort of finance package, I think, that's available till the start of September for 6 months and stuff like that, because I know the finance options compared to previous years this year probably weren't great. It was an option that I previously always used. This year I didn't, because I want to say maybe Hibs weren't covering the interest potentially this year or something. So, but they've sourced something that should open up some more avenues, hopefully, to people that maybe felt back in May that they couldn't. Maybe the world's a bit more back to normal. So hopefully we'll see a little bit of a boost, because at the end of the day we have had a good start to the season. We've lost one game as well, so it's a good time to be a Hibs fan. I know there's a lot of, it does feel like we're 1 or 2 games away from a crisis pretty much all the time, but it is a good time to be a Hibs fan. So hopefully we see a little bit of uptake. But Liam, what I know it's a sort of subject that you wanted to talk about a wee bit as well. What's your thoughts on the general season ticket pricing, game pricing sort of scenario that we find ourselves in just now?
I think, unfortunately, there's a lack of activity from the governing body and Scottish football on this, and I think there needs to be some kind of was it a price cap potentially set by the governing body of Scottish football for pricing for away fans. Now, whether that's set at 20 quid, whether that's set at 25 quid, I don't know. But I think we do need to kind of agree on a consensus of Scottish football that we're not going to have different tiers and different pricing depending on different circumstances and all this kind of stuff, because it feels like, like for example, season ticket holders that didn't buy the ticket having to pay £2 extra because they bought it a day later than people who bought it previous. Just stuff like that. It's minute, right? But as a fan and as someone who's paid £400 for your season ticket, it leaves a sour taste in your mouth. I understand differences in tiers and pricing for sitting in different parts of the stadium, because some parts are more desirable to sit in than others. Some parts you get a better view than others. All those things.
£35 the day to move. Cost up £35 to move to the famous 5 up at least.
So all those things I agree with. But I do think the governing body needs to come out and say there's a cap. This is how much it's going to cost. And bearing in mind the product, we think this is a reasonable amount to charge, and that's it. Because if you told me that the derby at Tynecastle on 12th September was £100 to go to that, I'd probably pay £100 to go to it, because it's the derby at Tynecastle. I wouldn't want to miss it.
You wouldn't be happy.
I'm a person whose circumstances allow me to do that, and I recognise how fortunate I am that I'm able to afford that. There's lots and lots of people who'd love to go who cannot afford it, even at 20-25.
I can and probably would, because of that.
Yeah, exactly. Or go into your overdraft to put yourself in more financial stress than you're already in. Football clubs have got a social responsibility to do the right thing by their supporters, and I do think it needs to be looked at, and I think it does need someone step in and own it. But unfortunately, the powers that be in our country and our game are weak. I mean, look at the thing that's going on with Rangers and the whole Singe thing just now. The whole thing just absolutely stinks to the high heavens. So I think we need to, as fans, we need to unite on it. I know Celtic fans tried to get that 2020 campaign started a while ago, and whilst I don't want to hold Celtic fans up as the kind of the God Almighty, I do think we do need to. There is an element us as fans need to take a stance. Aye, it's a fact. It has to be led by fans, because if we don't push for it, who else is going to?
Yeah. Well, just before we move on, Harry mentioned loyalty points and the cup top up. Am I right in saying I think it was when Leanne Dempster was still, it was definitely when Leanne Dempster was still here, and it was maybe when the first time we were going to be in the League Cup group stages, that's when they scrapped the cup top up because of, I'm assuming, they knew we were going to get 2 or 3 home games, probably very poorly attended, so they maybe couldn't afford it. But I think it should still be an option. I know for a while I think, did you just get the cup top up included if you renewed early bird or something, and then you could add it on? I think that's a great option to have, because like you said, Harry, even for the years that maybe Hibs are, even just for the domestic cup games, like look at yesterday, there wasn't a massive attendance, but if every season ticket holder knew that they got that as part of their season ticket, forget Europe, you know what I mean? Just the European games, I think people would pay for because they are more of a novelty and stuff like that. But try and encourage people to get to the game, you know what I mean? And I think it has to be an option, but obviously there must be a cost related issue to it as well. But more importantly, what's everyone's thoughts on loyalty points? Just across the four areas, it was quite a divisive topic at the time across Hibs fans. For me, I'm for it. Harry would have been right in saying you are as well.
The only reason it was divisive is because people that didn't go to all the games were gutted they were missing it on Tiny. If people went to the games, they wouldn't be missing it on Tiny. Simple as that. I didn't see, the thing is, I might be moving to London, and I'll take with that the fact that I'll miss out on games. If there was a loyalty system in place, I would have to move down to London knowing I was missing out on loyalty points. It's as simple as that. I don't understand how people can make a big fiasco about it. And then for me, you reset it after 5 years or whatever, or like every year. I don't know. You have to make it a way so that it doesn't discount fans that then want to start going to games. I don't know if that was one of the problems, but you need to just fix that as it goes. Because for me, there shouldn't be a big relying on a terrible ticketing system to attempt to get a ticket for Hearts. It should be whoever goes to all the games. Like, I've not missed a game this season, but I've got as good a chance as someone that's bought a season ticket that can to go to Tiny. I don't think that's fair.
There's another incentive for a season ticket is the cup top up and the loyalty points. You know, you want season tickets sold. Well, why don't you start with that then? I just feel that the club are missing so many opportunities here.
So would you be for loyalty points, Greg?
Yeah, because like folk can't just turn up once in a blue moon and go to Tiny away. That's really how it works. That really can't be how it works.
Am I right in saying there was potentially an issue with loyalty points because a lot of people with away games that aren't probably Hearts, Celtic, Rangers or Hampden, and I've done it a lot in the season before COVID, decide on the morning of the game they want to go, and you only got the loyalty points if you bought in advance. And was that a thing? Because I'm sure I've done that a few times.
Cash gates you didn't get any of the cash gates. Basically, it was an issue.
Would loyalty points incentivize you to go more as well? For me, I think it would.
It would for me. But the club's got a really easy way of solving this issue. We've proven that the ballot system could work. Just send out a vote to all season ticket holders. Do we want them or do we not? And just put the thing to bed once and for all, because it won't go away until we actually democratically decide as a sport. I think what you would find is that the season ticket holder divide will be quite 50-50, because I think you've got a core of season ticket holders who go to every single away game, come rain or shine, which is quite a small number. I think it's about 1,000 fans. And then you've got those who frequent away games now and again. I'm one of those people. And then you've got those home season ticket holders who do not go away from home, but they'll go to Tiny because it's in Edinburgh. And I think you will find that will be incredibly 50-50. So I think no matter what the club decide on this, there'll be a difference of opinion. But put it to a vote. I felt like it was scrapped too early is one thing I'd say about the loyalty point system. I felt like it wasn't really given an opportunity, and it was scrapped too early because the feedback of some very vocal fans. And I'm not sure those fans were right.
I agreed with the full system, and I wanted it to stay, but I did not agree with loyalty points going to HSL. I really, really didn't agree with that. But again, see if it had stayed, I probably would eventually put a tenner a month for the HSL or that. But it was an interesting one, Harry. You've raised your hand on Zoom. It's all very
mate, I've been in calls all day. The only qualm I had with it was the fact that I went over to Bromby, and for going to Bromby, I got, I think it was 7 loyalty points, and then I went and showed up to a home game and I got 20 loyalty points. And for me, I think travelling like 1,000 miles or whatever there and back and going to Bromby and that, spending like thousands of pounds, I think that deserves a bit more than 7 loyalty points. But the only thing for me, you got more points for home games, Hampden, Tiny, Celtic, Rangers, the games that it was really difficult to get to, than you got for the games that nobody wanted to go to. That was the one shtick. I'll stay in shtick these days if you haven't picked up on that with me. But anyway, more the loyalty points.
I do like a loyalty point system. I get the impression we all do, but I actually like what you've said, Liam, there for away games that seem to be high demand. Put the ballot out. Because do you know what I found out? Hibs do get put in these situations, max 6 times a season potentially for selling out away grounds, Tynecastle, Celtic Park, and
no Celtic
Ibrox.
Park.
No, but you know what I mean? Potentially. You know what I mean? I think
I suppose, but I've never
really, really well. But but just like worst case scenario where take learnings from clubs that have this more often. I know Celtic and Rangers season ticket holders, and that's what they do for Hampden. It's like you have to say, do you like season ticket holders go into a ballot, and then you get told you do or don't have a ticket, and suck up if you don't, sort of thing. And ultimately, can you argue with that? Like if it's a fair ballot, as long as you say that there's an option to sit anywhere, and no, just choose 2 areas, and if you didn't get lucky in that area, you'll hump, because that potentially seems to be an issue with the last ballot. But anyway, we must be about an hour in, and we've still got shit to talk about. But I think what we'd say as well is we did catch up with Ben just before the game last week, and he seemed to want to address these concerns that we brought up as well. So we'll see what happens in the future. Hopefully it does improve. Dundee away on Sunday. Another bloody outlay. Can we not just get a couple of home league games in a row? But Dundee away, 12:30 Sunday. Are we all hoping to see some new faces in the door by then? And if so, would they come straight into the team? Harry?
Yeah, I'm not joking. We need bodies now. We needed them last week, to be honest, but we need them now, definitely. I think this is now crucial, where Jack Ross has said again that he needs a centre half, so why don't we get one in? I'm not joking. The recruitment must have a list as long as there are. So
it's not necessarily the recruitment's being poor. It maybe just needs to speed up a little bit.
A little bit, mate. Come on.
But I just mean if Hanlon's and Doidge's injuries, obviously we know is long term. If Hanlon, I think we were always going to sign a centre half by the end of the window, but I think now they need more urgent. Would you be worried about McGregor and Porteous at Dundee?
I'm worried about it at the moment without not signing another one. We said at the start of the kind of pre-season we had another centre half in. and we're now halfway through August and still haven't got one in. And now the urgency is also to get a striker in. So at the start of the season, we wanted both. Absolutely wanted both, and we've now not got either, and we now desperately need both. So now it comes down to a question of, well, what quality we're going to get in.
See, so I think
because we've waited so long to actually do anything in the window.
Right, park that thought till we spoke about Dundee, because I really posed a terrible question there anyway, so that's my fault.
Yeah, you did.
I was wondering why you went in the transfer.
I know.
Yeah, no, we need to get Dundee done.
Aye, Dundee. If Paul Hanlon's fit, Harry, would he come straight back in? Any other changes for any other changes? If any.
That's like, I don't necessarily. I think after a week of rest, apart from like giving McGregor a rest, I don't think anybody necessarily needs to be pulled out the team. I think the main problem we've got is depth. I think that the squad that we started against, the team that we started against Kilmarnock, is more than capable of beating Dundee away after a week of rest. But it doesn't mean that I don't think we should have better options available. I don't think that we should be building squads on the basis that we've got a good first 11. I think that we should have at least a solid backup for each position. But yeah, no. In short, I'd keep the same team, but I'd start Hanlon over McGregor if possible.
Yeah. So Liam, we've been in really good form domestically. Would you confident going up to Dundee on Sunday?
We'd be confident actually. I think we've got a team that's well set up to play against Dundee. Only kind of caught wee bits and pieces on this season, not seen a full game, but if they try and play against us like they did against Celtic, then we'll absolutely tear it in bits, because we've got everything that Celtic have got in that final third. I think with the pace that we possess and the players who can kind of thread that ball through. That kind of midfield three, McGuinness, Newell and Doyle Hayes again, been really good. Maybe not all three of them for all 90 minutes, but certainly in every game, I think the three of them have been a real positive takeaway. Jake Doyle Hayes very quietly doing some of the defensive work on Sunday that we didn't necessarily think he was going to be primed to do, but the number of interceptions, number of blocks he made on Sunday kind of went under the radar. The role that kind of we'd sort of carved out for Gogic in the team, I think he's fulfilling that and more. So I'd be confident going out there on Sunday, definitely.
Yeah, right, Greg. I'm going to read you Dundee's team from. Actually, here's a great opportunity. Mr. Lumsden, less than a month ago, we done our season predictions, and you said Motherwell were going to win the League Cup. Well, Sunday's opponents just tapped them out in the second round. Any thoughts?
Did you not also say I'd just signed Guy Melamed?
No. No, I didn't say they should. I didn't say they should. I didn't say they should.
Yeah, we should look at them.
Right. That's an absolute no reverse there. You've been up there, mate.
No, it's okay, but I did
not. I have so much ammo. I've not even got started on ex-Dundee man Sean Mackey yet. Genuinely, I think we all said Tam Coates would be the first one at the door, but I can genuinely see it being Graham Alexander, and very shortly.
Mm-hmm. Were you surprised to see Dundee? Was that a result that surprised you against Motherwell at the weekend? Not because you predicted Motherwell to win the League Cup. Just did you think Dundee would beat Motherwell? Because obviously, they won their group in the League Cup group stages, but I think they even got a 3-0 victory to them in there as well because they had a COVID game. Drew with St Mirren, beat by Celtic. Then they beat Motherwell.
Yeah, I think Dundee are going to be one of these teams that will be up and down all season. They'll not be. They will be quite hard to read. I think they went to Celtic Park and got absolutely annihilated, but then they seemed pretty decent at home against Motherwell. So there really seems to be no rhyme or reason to them at the moment. So yeah, I don't know. It might be. Dens Park's never a fun place to go.
As long as you take quick throws, you're good though. We've seen that. As long as you take quick throws, then you're going to win convincingly.
Honestly, that night at Dens Park with a quick throw as if it was some ground-breaking, incredible. That shows how desperate we were at that point. Somebody took a quick throw and it was honestly, Eke was the best thing ever.
Rumour has it Harry's got that.
champion.
I think Harry's got that second in his best ever Hibs game after the fucking cup final. Harry loves that night, man.
Mate, honestly, like it's that goal from Stevie Mallon. Honestly, me and Craig, we thought it was an absolute screamer of a goal. We were devastated when we saw the replay and the keeper palmed it into the top corner. I thought that was the best goal ever.
Like it was a decent goal, but it wasn't like unreal. The goal
I know. I was
thinking.
I wasn't thinking goal of the season. I was thinking goal of the decade, because he absolutely smacked it. It must have been about 30 yards out, and then the keeper was like, "Boop."
Did you have your specs on at that point, Harry? Or
I actually didn't. I lost my
didn't
specs
think
at that point, but I was speckless.
Can I ask a
Liam,
question? Has James McPake decided that Jordan McGee's a central midfielder? Because I've watched Dundee play 2 or 3 games this season and Jordan McGee's played centre midfield.
He moved up to midfield in the middle of last season, and then I think in the playoff games, he absolutely ran the show, didn't he? I think he scored 2 against Rafe in the first couple of games, and then he scored against Killie as well, and he's played centre mid. He's played centre mid since. Liam, I've got a little game that I think you'll quite enjoy, right? The cliche game. Dundee got scudded by Dundee, and everyone says they won't be judged. They won't be the games they're judged off this season. So it's to look into it or not to look into it.
Wait, so Dundee got
that's right.
Just get that right. Dundee got scudded by Dundee, is that right?
Sorry, Dundee. No, I did. Wait a minute, Celtic Park. Dundee got scudded by Celtic at Celtic Park. To look into or not to look into?
Nah, not to look into.
Not to look into.
I hate judging other teams on. I know I mentioned them playing in Celtic, but I hate judging other teams solely on the results against other teams and then matching up how good you should be, because there's old cliche about boxers here, like styles make fights. I think that's true of football quite a lot of the time. Sometimes stylistically teams are just better matched up to play against each other, other sides. You look at the English Premier League, why do Burnley stay up every season? Because some teams are just not fit to play against Burnley's style of football. Not because they've got good footballers in their team, because they don't. Because by the way, you watch Burnley at the weekend, how fun. But that's true. I do think there's an element of us being quite well set up to play against Dundee, though, having said that, because I think their centre backs are Fontaine and Wee Ashcroft. I mean, keep the ball on the deck against them two, and they've got problems. So midfield 3: Sean Byrne, Jordan McGee, and Charlie Adam. I mean, I honestly, Charlie Adams' left foot is still a thing of beauty, but the rest of it is far from it. And Jason Cummings up front, or Killie and Sheridan. I mean, I wouldn't have anywhere near Hibs. So I don't mean disparaging about them, but I quite liked the boy Byrne when he was at Livingston first time round. I don't know how he's been for Dundee, but the rest of the team, not for me.
Nah, I think we could. I think we should be going incompetent. Would be my thoughts on it.
3-0 Dundee. Fact.
I remember when we played them pretty early on in the season a couple of years ago when they were in, and I think we won. It was on Sky as well.
Was that? Oh, that was the first season we came up. They played them at the. Was it maybe the second third week in August?
Bartley fingered the guy's bumhole.
Yeah.
Thanks. Did we win that day? Aye.
Nope.
Was it 2-2?
1-1.
I thought we scored 2 goals that day. Oh well. Fuck that then. No, but aye, Greg. Jason Cummings is obviously he's going to play some part, whether it be off the bench or off the start. I think the narrative's there. I think every Hibs fan's probably going into it thinking, "Oh, fuck, Jason Cummings will score." But decisive character, would you say? I don't know. That's divisive, not decisive. Divisive character.
Well,
and the sort of Hibs support. Liam says he shouldn't be anywhere near Hibs. What's your thoughts on Jason Cummings as a player and a threat as an opponent on Sunday?
Well, he goes out with Josh Doig's sister, and who's also Porteous' ex. So,
Snapchat City is what you're saying.
I would expect a couple of hard tackles around the laddie. To be honest, he's nowhere near Hibs, is he? Like he's not near Hibs level for me. It showed when he went down to Forest. The Forest still followed Forest quite close at that point, and he was hopeless. He just could not do it. He's not really done anything since, to be honest, apart from I think he scored a couple of goals against Liverpool for Shrewsbury. Yeah. But for me, he's not. Hibs are well beyond his level now.
The only worry for me with Cummings is like you say, even in his time down south, it looked like he still had a sniff for the big games. Am I right in saying at Forest he scored 2 at St James's Park? He obviously scored 2 for Shrewsbury against Liverpool. And I think he would be looking at this as a big game, at least in his mind.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, against his former employer. So that does worry me a wee bit.
Has he actually been playing though?
Yeah,
He started
because Mullen got injured.
Yeah, so he came off the bench really early doors in the first day of the season because what's his name, Harry? You just said Mullen. He didn't play at Celtic Park, or at least he didn't start, and he started at the weekend and got hooked after it was 89 minutes. So he played 90 minutes at the weekend. So I don't really know. Personally, I'd be starting Cummins over Sheridan, but
I actually met him in the Barbers after the first game against Killie in the playoff, and he wasn't involved, and he didn't really seem that happy about it. So I don't really know if James McPake actually trusts him to perform. So we'll wait and see. But look, he is a goal scorer, but I just don't think that with the threat that Dundee carry, or the lack of that Dundee carry, that he'll really trouble us. I think we've got more than enough to deal with that and deal with Dundee anyway. Full stop.
I don't want to make a statement that it kind of tempts fate a wee bit, but I've just never liked him as a lone striker. I think as a finisher, he's perfectly capable. Yeah. But I think the reason that McPake's preferred Sheridan is because he's a more capable lone striker. Jason Cummings, right, someone up them for me, does not have he doesn't have the ability to run it. He doesn't have the ability. He's got the ability, but he doesn't have the athleticism to run it behind. He's not the kind of player who looks particularly comfortable coming short. He kind of needs a guy. I mean, look at how much Grant Holt kind of bailed him out at different times. You know, look how much more successful we were with 3-5-2 when he had anyone up with him. So I think that's maybe his issue a wee bit, is that he's a penalty box striker, and there's no really many of them in the modern game when you look at it who start every week for their clubs.
No, absolutely. Right, but let's wrap up this Dundee game with some score predictions, please. Harry?
3-1.
Greg?
I'm going to back the defence here and say 3-0.
Nice, positive. Liam?
It'll be a tougher game than you might expect. I think we'll go up 1-0.
2-1 Hibs. They'll blip. We know that has to happen every week. I'm going to say 2-0. I'm on the same wavelength as Greg. I think we'll keep a clean sheet. I do, despite everything we just said about Jason Cummins. I'm not convinced he'll play, and I think we'll keep a clean sheet, hopefully. Right. Quick high be the week. Liam, you won last week. Kyle McGuinness.
Obviously.
Who are you going?
My nomination, actually, that he stole.
And what we'll do is we'll go in order of first, second, third, fourth. So for nominations, so that would be Liam, then Greg, then Harry, then myself. So Liam, you're up first. Who gets your high be of the week this week?
I think I'm just going to go for the classic. If it's not broke, don't fix it. And I think it has to be Kyle McGuinness again this week. Okay. There's the obvious shout. Harry looks miffed because I've gone for the obvious.
No,
and I've gone
mate,
first. He doesn't look happy.
I thought
the way he took his goal on Thursday night was one of the very few positives really to come from Thursday night's performance. The way he took his goal.
Yeah, we didn't even mention that, did we?
Nah, and just, I mean, what can we say about Kyle McGuinness? Like, we've been crying out for a midfielder that's going to score goals. He's scoring goals. He's making runs ahead of the ball. He's just, he's everything we wanted and probably needed the tail end of last season. Aye, 4 and 4 and 5 for the season, I think, as well.
No,
but anyway, however many he scored, because I'll get it wrong, he's been brilliant, and it's just a shit one, because there's a wee bit of a tinge of what if last season had he been fit going into the last few games last season. But
I think what we're seeing already. Just in fact, no, I'll wait. Greg, who's your high be of the week?
I'd just like to say I tipped Kyle McGuinness for Player of the Year. That was my shout of the season.
I went breakout start, I think. So
don't ever tell me I don't know anything about football. The Motherwell one, we all have them. I think I might go for Nisbet. It's good to see him back scoring. He took his goal well. So yeah, I'm going to say Kevin Nisbet.
Nice, Harry.
I'm gonna do something very out left field. I'm gonna test the Hibs fans, and I'm gonna nominate Bobby Madden. I want to have the first ever no vote as an option on High Be the Week, and I want to see if that actually happens. So I don't want this caveated on Twitter. I just want it put on. I just want that put as an option on the poll, and I want to see if we can get a zero.
With no context.
Yeah, no context. Bobby Madden thrown in there, and I want to see if we can get 0 votes for Bobby Madden. That is my High Be the Week nomination. Because to be fair, I was wanting, like, I was going to say Bobby Madden regardless, but I was wanting Kyle McGuinness if somehow it fell to me. But yeah, no, if it's no Kyle McGuinness or Nisbet and it's no Boyle, because nobody wants Boyle to win anyway, then fuck it, Bobby Madden.
Well, I'm going to go for Jamie Murphy. This is what I was going to say. I think we're already seeing this season the benefit of full pre-seasons and Kyle McGuinness and Jamie Murphy compared to last season. They both look a lot fitter. They both look a lot more effective on the park. But Jamie Murphy was probably best, I'm going to say, the early best player in the park over in Croatia. And again, I think he was very standout player in the first half. And I think he was still okay in the second half as well before he got subbed off. Right, so that'll go up. Liam's got the first High Be the Week win of the season. So just sort of continuing on from last season. Right, transfers / squad depth / we've spoke about it so often in this podcast already. But Liam, centre half and striker, if we could only get one in before Sunday, what would be your number one priority?
If we only get one in one position, I think for me, striker, because I sense that Hammond will probably be back for the weekend. So I think it's centre forward. I think we need another option off the bench. I think we need someone that's different from Nisbet. I think we ideally need both, but I think striker would be the one I would go for, because God forbid anything happens between now and Sunday with Kevin Nisbet, because then we would literally have nobody who's a recognised central striker really. So yeah, a striker for me. If you're going to ask me for candidates, I'm probably better prepared to talk about candidates at centre back than I am up front. So there's no one that's jumping out in the market for me that I think someone would go and get. Some of the names I saw floated today were Callum Hendry at St Johnstone, who did do a particularly good job on loan to Aberdeen last season. Is busy, but it's not the kind of player I'd be wanting to look at. Shout out to, is it the 1875 Sweet on Twitter, Harry, who pulled together that wee list of nominations. Some obscure ones, like the one. I love the one he flipped. It was a boy. Was he playing in the Russian league or the Kazakhstani Super League or something? So fair play. The boy at Accrington Stanley, who I'd seen mentioned in bits before as well, Colby Bishop, I think. But to be honest, I don't know for striker, but I know it means someone.
Yeah, would we all agree that if we could only get one in before Sunday, that would be the priority? The striking position is now, with Doidge's injury until the new year, takes priority over a centre half?
No.
I'm in Greg's camp, yeah.
Okay. I want a centre half, and to be honest, I'm honestly sick of hearing about us trying to get. We need one. I'm sick of hearing it now. We've said it for a long time. Look, if the worst comes to the worst, you can stick Boyle up front and Mackay out wide or whatever. But the priority is a centre half, even if it's to challenge the two that's there. You know, I don't really care, but we need a centre half, and we've been crying out for one for a long time now. And so very well coming out in the press and saying we need one. We actually need to do it though. You know, because we've think Jack Ross said it a month ago, and we're still not really any further forward. Usually you hear names and that drafted about. We've heard Jamie McCart that's gone silent for weeks now. So yeah, I would want us to get a centre half in before we get a striker in. Okay.
Harry, just before you answer on this, I mentioned this on Clickbang after the Beata game, so apologies to any listeners that have heard me say this sentence. I really want to get your guys' opinions on this. Do you think there's an element where potentially now Hibs have a clear idea of what market we're going to be shopping in? Because we didn't know what European prize money we were looking at, and I would say that we probably expected to have brought in at least 3 or 4 million for someone by now, whether that have been Josh Doig, Kevin Nisbet, even if there was obviously murmurs about Ryan Poitras moving on. So do you think, because ultimately if you sell someone for £3 or £4 million, Hibs aren't going to spend £3 or £4 million on bringing someone in, but you do have more cash available to sign someone, so you're probably looking at a higher quality player than elsewhere. But between going out of Europe, so we know, right, that's that stream of cash cut off. That's how much we've got. And obviously now the demand, especially on the striker front, that Doidge is injured, we've got a much clearer picture of where we're shopping. And you know what I mean? Like, I just think you wouldn't want to go and sign someone and then sell someone for $3 million and be like, oh, fuck, we could have got someone else. Does that make sense?
See, for me, you should never think that, oh, we're going to offload Dame or we're going to offload Dame. The squad you've got is the squad you've got. We needed a centre half anyway before we even thought about selling anyone, or before we
I just mean in terms of players that are within reach. You know what I mean? If you sell Josh Doig for $4 million, $5 million, you've got a much bigger transfer budget. You know what I mean? You can offer maybe $1,000 a week more in wages, or you can offer a little bit of transfer fee as opposed to a free transfer. You know what I mean? The player pool that you're maybe looking at is different. Would you agree?
No, because see, for me, you've got the criteria there, and you've got a list of candidates or whatever, and they will fit into the wage structure at the moment. They're not going to fit into the wage structure if Doig leaves or whatever. You've got a list there that is suitable for the club now. Now, if Doig was to go, then you look further afield, or if someone else was to go, you look further afield. But at the moment, you should have a list that suits the club's needs right now, and we should be trying to get the best possible player within those parameters. Now, at the moment, there's not been a lot of movement. I know we've heard about Jamie McCart and possible bids for him, but one reason or another it's not happened. So I don't know if we're sticking with him or if we're looking elsewhere or what. But yeah, for me, there is a criteria there that we have, and we need to be looking within that without actually thinking about offloading players. Yeah.
Harry, you've obviously agreed with Greg and saying that centre half needs to be in the sort of first signing that comes in. Anyone in mind seem to potentially be trying to hold out for Jamie McCart? Anyone else that would be a standout option for you?
Not really, but just for me, we were talking about transfers when we first started the podcast a year ago, and I said I wanted a centre back. Then at Christmas, you asked me what I wanted in January, and I said a centre back. Then at the start of the summer, you asked me what I wanted, and I said a centre back. And I think if we get a centre back at the start of the summer, I think that we are through against Rijeka. I genuinely think if we go out and spend 500k on a starting centre back that's of calibre to Porteous or Hanlon, I think we go through in that game. I think if Hanlon's fit on Thursday, we go through. So yeah, I think the reason we go out, it's a reflection on the recruitment team for not fixing a hole that's been in the squad for well over a year now. And obviously, I think the more pressing need is a striker. But if you could guarantee me us signing a centre back, I would take the centre back just because I've been wanting one and think it's been such a hole for so long. And as you know, I've said several times, I think we should leave St Mirren alone. Obviously, the name Conor McCarthy has been floated about. Not quite the calibre of Jamie McCart, I think it's fair to say.
But I think he's better.
Do you think?
I think he's much better.
Go on then. Wax lyrical about another St Mirren player for Hibs.
I just don't, do you know what it is? I don't see any value in Jamie McCart. If St Johnstone want £500,000, he's not worth. Jamie McCart, right? His value is whatever. He's worth whatever St Johnstone value him. Jamie McCart isn't worth £500,000 to Hibs. I don't see there being any sell-on value, and he's a free player. He's free next season.
Doesn't change the game for Hibs either. I don't think he's a significant enough upgrade on Paul Hanlon, to be honest. I think he's a good centre half, but would he come into the starting 11 ahead of Paul Hanlon right now? For me, no. But I think Conor McCarthy as well, even if he was someone that we're interested in, I think he's a very decent SPFL centre half. I think he's got all the attributes that you need to be successful in the game here. I think St Mirren are rumoured to have knocked back $100,000 from Rotherham. I mean, I think that's derisory for what he's worth, because I think he's a much better player than that. But the player's apparently said that he wants to move, so maybe 250 grand in his hours. I think it represents better value for money. Aye, well, I mean, folk. I've seen folk immediately write him off because he's a St Mirren player. I mean, folk no learn. Like Jake Doyle-Hayes was written off for exactly the same reason, and I'm not being funny, but he's the way he's playing at the moment. He's one of our candidates for Player of the Season. This early
and the main one, where did he come from as well?
Kyle McGuinness.
Where did he
Kyle McGuinness, he's also very good. Paul McGinn's turned out all right. So I don't let
John McGinn was all right, to be fair.
Write players off. John McGinn. I don't think I remember him. Anyway, let's not go right into those off based on who they play for. I hear Harry's point about kind of leaving clubs alone, but let's be honest, we're not in a position where we can be choosy about which clubs we're buying from at this stage in the window. We need to get the deals done. If Conor McCarthy's the best that's out there and represents the best value, go for it. I mean, the utopia would be to sign Jason Kerr, but I think on the basis that they knock back rumoured to be quite a substantial bid from Bournemouth, I don't think he's coming to Hibs, unless something drastically changes. I think the only way I could see Kerr or McCarthy at Hibs now is if we were to sell Josh Doig for a very handsome fee and then reinvest it in the defence.
I personally don't see them. I think we all recognise there's a need for me, especially a striker, centre half. If Hanlon's fit, you probably could wait to the end of the window. They are not leaving St Johnstone until the last 2-3 days of the window, because they are not leaving St Johnstone until after this playoff against Lask that they've got, I think. So, and I believe that's a week on Thursday, which is 2-3 days before the window. And I don't see either Kerr, McCart, Rooney, McCann, any of the St Johnstone players that might be leaving. I don't think they'll leave until that playoff leg's done. In terms of striker, I really don't have a clue. I think it'll be sort of player similar to Doig in terms of attributes, but also where he came from. I think a little bit someone that we don't really know. Yeah, I mean, I think we'll target someone because, like you said, I think in the last couple of seasons you've seen Nisbet and Shankland being the obvious candidates within Scotland, and we went and got Nisbet. I don't see there being as a particular standout option just now in Scotland that would have people sort of not going a bit, is that it? You know what I mean? And I think there's probably players out there that if they were coming in as clear third choice behind Doig and Nisbet, you'd maybe be like, right, okay, but we know that this player's going to play a fair chunk of minutes. I'm not sure there's many clear candidates in Scotland at the moment.
I don't think they will, though. I don't think the way Jack Ross picks his team, he's got his first 11 in mind, and unless one of them gets dropped off, he doesn't like to change it. I think if we bring in a backup, it's for a backup, and that's why I want them in. That's why I think centre-back's more important as well.
That's fair. What I would say is, I think we would all agree, is the recruitment team, especially under Jack Ross, have done a pretty good job with the players that we've signed. Would we say that? I might be making a rod for my own back here. Has there been anyone that we've brought in under Jack Ross that you would say was a complete and utter dud?
Not completely dud, but I think the jury is rightly very much out on Jay Wright. I think just to call out the elephant in the room, and I don't want to get stuck into an individual, but I think you'd have to say that the number of minutes that he's played, I don't know if he was signed to be a backup player, but he's not even really played the minutes of a backup player, to be honest, and part of that's been because of injury. So I don't want to dig him out as an individual, but I think mostly successes under Jack Ross, but then the recruitment team was the recruitment team before Jack Ross was around as well, to be fair. And
no, I just mean
mixed success before that.
Maybe even since Ron Gordon came in, because I think the profile has changed. I think we've spoke about that enough. The only one I don't really mind the Jay Wright signing. I never really expected him to come in, and ultimately he's understood it, Martin Boyle. That's the way that I looked at it when we even signed them. Jackson Irvine was maybe a miss, probably, but maybe that was more fan expectation. And
that should have worked out. Just I didn't.
I was late for saying that though, and look how much better we are off now. He wasn't. Do you know what? He wasn't worth breaking the bank for.
No,
he wasn't good. He wasn't good enough.
Yeah, it just didn't work out, and I think we were. But for me, that would maybe be the only one that maybe was a bit of a miss under since maybe Ron Gordon came in. But
so you're saying that Jay Wright isn't a miss, but Jackson Irvine was?
I just think the expectations that were placed on them. I don't think
Jackson Irvine was terrible for Hibs. Obviously, when he left,
I don't think he was terrible.
I wouldn't say he was a miss. I think that's a bit much, to be honest.
Mate, I opened up by saying I don't think there's been any bad signings. I felt like the expectation and the excitement that Jackson Irvine brought with it maybe didn't quite live up to it. I'm not saying it was a bad sign, and I'm saying if I was pushed for a miss, I would probably lean towards him more than Jay Wright, because I think Jay Wright was signed with the expectation of being a squad player, and that's the role that he's fulfilled. Personally, that's just math. just my thoughts on it. But it's a weird situation because we know we need a centre half and we know we need a striker, but there's no names jumping off us. So I guess.
Do you know a name up front that I quite fancy us going after? We mentioned him a few weeks ago. Is that James Scott that's at Hull City? That was Hull Tigers, whatever they're called these days. That was at Motherwell. Went down there for £1 million. Fits the profile. 21, 22. Centre forward, can run. I think he actually plays wide more than he plays through the middle. But I'd definitely be interested in him if we could make that happen. St Mirren were rumoured to be interested in him as well. So it'd be nice to take another player for under St Mirren's noses, like Tony Fitzpatrick, some lad.
Just before we wrap up, I do think there's a lot to be said about clubs and their working relationships. Though there's obviously that sort of rumour kicking about that post John McGinn, Celtic are pretty much, or Peter Lawwell was pretty much refusing to do business with us. We've obviously built up a good understanding with St Mirren. You don't sell. I personally don't think you sell players to teams that you aren't comfortable doing business with. You know what I mean? We obviously give them good enough deals. Like Jim Goodwin moaned early in the window about clubs putting in shite offers.
I think
offers that have been accepted.
I think Kyle McGuinness pretty much forced his move to Hibs, which maybe didn't help the relationship because he forced it through. Am I right in saying that Jake Doyle-Hayes was a free?
Yeah,
so we've actually not really had that good a relationship with them where we have kind of almost backed them in to a corner. Well, John McGinn was going to take Stephen Thompson to court and we stopped that. We kind of forced the hand with Paul McGinn. So I don't know if it's that we've got a good relationship, it's that we've got money and they don't.
And they needed it.
or maybe St Mirren just kind of rewrite them a cheque it will only bounce, unlike some other clubs in Scottish football.
Well, that is true.
Harry, you got something to say, son?
No, I was just trying to animate what was going on. Why not? Come on.
If anyone's watching on YouTube, please do not. I hope nobody's turned off like by now, which they probably have, but that was fucking weird. But look, anyway, boys, I think that's about our lot for this week, I think. We'll be back next week after the Dundee... fuck off. We'll be back after the Dundee game next week, previewing the first league game where we'll have potential for a full house at Easter Road against Livingston and reviewing the Dundee game. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.